This morning, Pippa gave me permission to read her Akashic Records and share some of her past life information and her current life information with Caitlin and my son Matthew. Of course, everything I shared made absolute sense with them. It's because they're already so connected with Pippa. But she's a very, very, very old soul. She's been around since before dogs were in the form they are and before humans are in quite the form we are. She is here to help mentor younger soul dogs. So there's no reason to be afraid of her. She is here today to help me create energetic space, to help open it up for the Akashic Record librarians and guardians to come through a little more fully. And she is very comfortable with connecting with the Akashic Records all on her own. So you'll notice as the time goes on, she'll be like settling down a little more, basking in the energy. You know, she's a very, very kind, loving, nurturing soul who feels importantly it's her soul's path to help mentor those who need it. And today she's helping to mentor us. Um, So as I was saying, please, if you have your cell phone, either have it off on silent or airplane mode. Do not have it on vibrate mode because if I'm channeling and someone's phone goes off on vibration, the frequency interrupts the connection that I have. And it'll totally distract and disperse the librarians, and then we'll have to pull them back, which is really actually very exhausting for me. Although the librarians kind of think it's entertaining, but we're not here for their entertainment. We're here for them to educate us. I channeled them at a yoga and music festival in August. And so we're in the middle of a huge festival and we're in the healing village in an outdoor pavilion. And there are healers going on all around us, including sound and vibrational healers. Right behind me was someone who was healing with gongs. And whenever this guy would hit the gong, the librarians would be like, "Ooh, what's that? Ooh, let's go check that out." Ooh. They're like all excited. I'm like, "Oh, get back here." So, um, so as I said, my name is Bonita, and I want to give you a little background about myself so you'll know why I'm connected with this work, and then a little information about the Akashic Library and the librarians. So, quick show of hands, how many people here have done any connection with your past life, either regressed or been read to, or just had that great deja vu feeling like I know I've been here before, or okay. And how many people here are familiar with the Akashic Library, either through reading about it or having been there? Don't worry, for everyone, this is for everyone on every level. By the end of today, you all will feel very, very connected. Um, so, in this life, I was born with a full memory of my entire existence. And that doesn't mean 24/7. I was constantly remembering everything, but it did mean everything was accessible to me. I thought everyone was this way. So it didn't occur to me to talk about it or make any big deal about it. Um, and then some years ago, when I learned that everyone isn't this way, I went, well, let's teach everyone how to be this way. And, I'm honored to team with people like Paulette, who I've heard wonderful things about her ability to help people connect with their past lives. And we're going to do a session exchange coming up, which I'm excited about. Um, I also grew up hopping through dimensions since and connecting with beings of other timelines. Since having full memory, it wasn't just like the lives I've lived on Earth, it's my time between lives, what is my higher self up to, lives I've lived in other dimensions, other parts of the universe. That was why when the presentation on aliens, ETs, light beings, to me, they're all the same. Because what's the difference between another 3D physical life form on another 3D planet and a more etheric life form in a different vibration of this reality? It's just different life forms. And one thing I've learned with my work in the Akashic Library is we're pretty much the same as angels. We look up to angels because they're a very high vibrational collective that can exist as individuals or collectives or one full collective. But when we're not in our physical body, we are also energetic beings that can exist in collectives. And when we connect with all of our past lives in our higher state, each of us is a collective of our own. It's very important that we humans stop thinking of ourselves as just people and start realizing we are eternal energetic beings of love and light. And that's something that I hope will come out today for everyone, that you'll really feel, that's right, Pippa, that you'll feel truly connected with that state of being. Um, so, okay, you may start feeling like the top of your head is getting a little light and tingly as we're going along. If that happens, or if you feel a little pressure on the top of your head or your forehead as we're doing this, or your temples, relax. Very importantly, relax your feet, because as energy is going to be coming in for each of you, especially as I'm channeling, the librarians will be calling in all of your personal librarians to connect with each of you individually, even as they're speaking generally. And you may find like little random thoughts or whisperings or hearing voices in your inner mind. Be open and receptive to this. If you're feeling any pressure or pain, that's because the energy is trying to come in and you're not receiving it. Or you're receiving it, you're not letting it flow. So just relax your feet. Feel like your feet are pools of puddle of energy flowing, and that will allow the energy to start flowing through. If you feel any blocks within you, then allow those blocks to relax on their own and acknowledge them, they'll relax on their own. You don't need to force anything. And as the energy is flowing, you'll become more receptive. Pippa may walk around the circle a little bit as she feels people feeling energetically, blocked or like hitting little hitches, and she'll be giving her energy to you. So don't be worried if she walks around the circle a little bit. She's a sheepdog. She's used to helping guide, and today she'll be helping to guide us a little. You can see, if there's anyone here who sees energy, you can see she's already connecting in. She connects with, obviously, the animal Akashic Library, and specifically the dog, which is a different vibration, a different frequency from the human one. It's also a different frequency from, say, the elephants or the angels. But we can connect with any of them by matching our frequency to the frequency of the place or the beings we wish to connect with. And towards the end of today, we'll do a little meditation to try to connect in with, not with Pippa specifically, because that would be a bit much for her, but with the dog mandala energy. And you can feel the slightly different vibration and be receptive to whatever comes through. It could be, if you have a dog in this life, that dog may send a message to you, or dog in a past life, or maybe a past life you had where a dog was a very important companion. Something, if you are receptive, will come through. That's why I love working with dogs. Cats are very different. I'll tell you, one time when I was learning animal telepathic communication, I wanted to practice with my animals, and I said to my dog, Lord Snaggletooth, I projected the thought, yeah, that's his name, may I communicate with you? And he looked at me and he projected back loud and clear, no. I already communicate good enough. I don't need you in my mind. You don't even know what you're doing. And again, I tell you everything you need to know. And it's true, he has excellent communication skills and he's very telepathic. But over time now, he does. Now he feels like I'm less clumsy. He won't let me in his mind, but he'll project to my mind. So I turned to my cat, Donovan, who's an albino Maine Coon cat, who was sitting in my lap. And I projected I apologized to Snag and I said, Donovan, may I communicate with you? This cat uncurled himself, looked me right in the face, and he said, finally, someone to appreciate my great magnificence. And he projected this image of how he sees himself like this giant albino lion, king of the plains, with wind blowing in his mane. And I said, how do you even know what lions are? And he said, this is me. I am lion. And then he's going on about how, and I'm like, forget it. Forget it. So cats are wonderful. But and since then, like Donovan and I have connected a great deal. Sometimes he'll take me in the cat dream world where all cats connect in an energetic mandala of cat feline energy. And he can connect with all the different kinds of cats all over the world. And he'll take me with him dreaming. But again, incredible sense of self there. And it's really like it's harder to love him when I dream with him. But dogs are always here to help teach and share love, share energy, and to care give to us. So that is why Pippa has joined us today. Okay, I'm asked to remind everyone throughout, just remember to relax your feet and let the top of your head feel light and airy and tingly. And don't worry if you forget. I'll be reminding periodically. The more you relax your feet, the more your crown chakra can open, and you are then a divine conduit. And the energy that flows through you fills your being and then flows into earth to be shared with all the earth magic. So anyone here who also practices shamanic energy or earth magic energy, you must always remember to become divine conduits. And people who work with the angelic realm or fairy energy or very light energy, you still want to do this because if um, you don't have any staying power for the work you're doing. It's important to always be a full conduit of energy. Otherwise, you're like a feather or a helium balloon floating around with all this light, airy energy, but it doesn't do anything to contribute to the vibration of our planet. Um, does that make sense to you all? Okay. So, and the easiest way is just relax your feet and then everything flows. So, the Akashic Library is this place in a non physical realm, it's an energetic connection. It's described as sort of like being the internet. Um, you can go there and access anything whatsoever. The majority of people go there to read about their past lives, and it's a great place for that. I do that a great deal, but that's not the only thing you can do there. Um, when you go into the Akashic Library, there are so many rooms and corridors and spaces that if you are someone who meditates to the library, I really encourage you to explore. Ask your librarian. And if your librarian does not appear to you when you show up, it may be an invisible, like it may be you not connecting in a way that you can see them. Maybe you hear them, maybe you feel them. It doesn't really matter how you connect with the library, just whatever way you connect, allow that to open up. I'll use the word seeing and hearing, but really it may be a sense of feeling or an instant download of information or bubbles that seem to float into you that, like soap bubbles that then when they burst, you have an understanding. It's however the information comes to you, accept that and absorb it, appreciate it. Sometimes from one life to another, the information will be different. I'll go into one life and it seems like I'm seeing a movie with technicolor sound and huge everything, bigger, bolder, brighter. And I'll go into another past life and I'm in the body experiencing everything firsthand. I'll go into another life, I don't see anything. I just get an instant download in like 5 seconds of every detail of that life. I'll go into another life and someone's whispering in my ear telling me the story of that life. And all I see is pitch black. So every single life can be different, and depending on how you sense, things can be completely different. So even though I'll be using the word seeing and hearing, understand that's just what we call it. So we don't have to put a whole bunch of different senses out there. Just be open to whatever comes through. Certainly with your librarians coming through today, they'll come through however they do. Okay, so we normally refer to the library as like a library, like an ancient library that you go into with. Usually people see it as a giant ancient library with massive wooden doors that you touch and they swing open and you walk in the most amazing library you ever saw. And if you look up, it goes forever. And if you wonder wide, it goes forever. And there's like massive desks to sit at and these big tomes of books that float through the air. I've also been in the Akashic Library where it looks like an ancient temple, like just floating in the universe or floating on clouds. And when you go into it, orbs float down into your hands and you sort of go into the orb. I've also seen it where it's like places I've been in my past, or even sometimes a TV set. Like, do you all know the show Mr. Ed? Yeah. The Wilbur's living room. I'll go in there and various past lives. Well, Pippa, no, that's not making her comfortable. Come on, lie down. Good girl. And various past lives will come forward and sit in the living room with me. We're having like a cocktail party and they're talking about their past lives. And eventually someone will go, let me show you. And then we go into their life. So there is so many ways it can happen and come forward that just be receptive to whatever. So the Akashic Library, since it's more than just, again, we normally talk about the books of your life. When I lead people into the library and they pull out the book, I have them look at the book cover, look at what material the book is made of, how fat it is, what the page edges are like, because it will be different for each life. Some people say, in this life, it was just like an iPad. It wasn't a book, it was an iPad. In another life, it was like a small Frodo's travel log. In another life, it would be a big leather-bound tome. So it can be different for every life, but the way the book looks is an indicator of something to expect from that life experience. If you go beyond the main area of the library and travel further back, you can find areas where there are books that are public access, which means anyone can read them. Like if I were to go in the library and I wanted to read Kathleen's book, I would need her permission. And then I would need her higher self's permission. And then I would need her librarian's permission. Because it could be Kathleen's like, yeah, sure, go ahead, read about this past. I've always had a thought that I had a life in Victorian England where I lived near a swamp and did a lot of horseback riding. Can you go look at that life? And her higher self might be like, oh, yeah, sure, that's fine. And then the librarians will go, no, there are things that happened in that life that Kathleen should not know because it'll affect how she lives this life. So that's not open. Or there are things that happened to Kathleen in that life that we'll tell her personally, but we're not going to tell another person because it's not your place to know this. So, or they might say, we're going to let her know half of that life, but not all of it. You can get blocked by that. But if I were to go in the library and pull out Kathleen's book without her permission, I would be denied reading it. Like I might then fall down with a big pile of books falling on top of me, or the book might just snap shut, or things will happen. And if I force it, like, no, I will read this book, I'll be given a false reading. So if anyone ever goes to you and said, "Oh, I tapped into one of your past lives and let me tell you what happened," and they did not have your permission, they did not tap into your life. And just know that that's a person who has a level of arrogance that's interrupting their skill and ability in the metaphysical and spiritual area. And you cannot trust what they're doing because they're fooling themselves. So it's very important to understand that. Now, you can go further beyond the area where we have our private stories and there's public access stories. These are people who felt like it was important to share their life with others, or people who, when they went into life, they had a lot of soul shards of others to help them. For example, Jesus. Jesus loves it when people read his life book. He loves it because when he came to life, he did a calling of souls. He said, because he knew he was going to take on something really huge. So he needed a lot of help, a lot of support with a lot of extra energy. And he also knew that this was something he wanted to share with everyone. It was going to be, even in the life he was sharing with everyone, afterlife he wanted to share. So he got literally billions of soul shards. And that's where like each of us takes just a little bit of our soul and gives it to him. And when he was in life, he had this extraordinary life that many of the writings about have all wrong. And then, not all wrong, but not quite right. And then after his life, he returned the soul shards to everyone. So many of us, even many of us in this room, were connected with Jesus during his life. After his life, he can't have that book then a closed book. Oh, it's only for me, because there were too many people involved. So it's an open book. Many of the major historic figures in our planet have open book lives. Cleopatra, Henry VIII, Kubla Khan, they have open book lives. All of the apostles, Mary, Joseph, and Mary, their lives are open book. How do you get to their books? You have to get your vibration to a vibration close enough to access it. So you have to get your vibration up to like the lowest Jesus vibration in order to read his book. And I'll tell you, it's a really good book. It's a really, really good read. It's very exciting material. And even if you can't quite get your vibration to read the whole book, he can share some of the stories with you. And they're all stories that will connect with you for a reason that's helpful for you personally, because that's the easiest way to connect. So there are open access books. Some of them are not great history figures. Some of it's like Joe the farmer felt like he had a really good life and he'd like to share it with people. So if you want to get used to reading, like if you're like, yeah, I want to read all the apostles, Jesus, Mary, Joseph, and Mary, then you might start with reading Joe the farmer's book just to get used to reading someone else's book. Practice doing readings with other people. And I think Paulette and the workshops that you have are great with setting people up for this kind of work. And that way you get used to this, you get comfortable with it, you build your like Akashic record reading muscles, and then you can start like really exploring. Another area of the Akashic library there are portals to other dimensions and other frequencies. When I say other frequency, it's in this dimension, in this reality, but it's different vibration in this dimension. So that you have a non-physical collective of beings or a non-physical reality that shares a lot of common elements with our reality, but it's vibing in a different frequency, sharing the same space. And this is part of why, like I've been to places where there are eternal creatures living in the soil of a sacred space, but they're in a different vibration. So for them, they've got one kind of physical reality. We have a different physical reality in the exact same space. You can go into the Akashic Library and see all of this. Most people see it like if you're in, say, a spaceship and they have the big window to, like, imagine Star Trek, in the brig, and you have that big window showing all of the space out there. Most people see it as something like that where you can look out, but there's doors, and you can go through the doors to these other dimensions and go visit with them. Generally, when you do that, you take on their shape and their form, and you stay with them for a while as their style of reality. And then you return back to this room, and you can bring up another place. You can bring up place after place and check them all out. There are also like chat rooms where you can go into, and there's like all these screens all around from beings of all different places, dimensions, realities, and they're just like chatting with each other, and that's very much like an internet chat room forum kind of thing. And you can go there and see like what all of these beings are like. This is really common with interdimensional conferences. They'll use this space for it. So sometimes you'll walk into one of these rooms thinking it'll be something fun, and you walk in on a really important meeting, and everyone stares at you. Sorry, I didn't know this room was occupied. And it's really humbling experience. So I just mentioned this because these are some of the things that you can find in the Akashic Library. If you work with your individual librarians, and usually each person has 2 librarians, they're not just for you, they're like also for other people. But usually you have the head librarian and an assistant librarian. And if you've been to the library and you have not yet seen your librarians, it's always empty when you go there, start calling to them, inviting them to come and talk with you, meet with you, and then be receptive to whatever form they take to reveal themselves. It can grow and change over time. And if you go there and it's always empty, you don't see anyone else there, ask them to help you learn about how to vibe on the vibration of everyone else who's there. And you might start seeing first like vague shimmers or other beings there, or seeing other frequencies in there. And it's a little bit like almost like a dream scene as other beings and other frequencies start coming in. They might seem invisible at first, or shimmery, or almost like a projected image on a piece of glass that you can see through. There's all different ways, but over time, with practice, you can start connecting with other beings who are in the library when you're there, if you want to. And you may not always want to. Sometimes you just want to be alone, let them be in their vibration, their reality. So I wanted to mention all of this so that when the librarians come through, you have an idea of what their life is like. Each race of beings has their own library, and each library is in a different vibrational frequency. Obviously, the angelic library is a frequency like pure love and joy. It's a very high vibration. But because we have a symbiotic relationship with the angels, they watch over us to help us with life through life. And in exchange, they send the high vibrational frequency to our being. We send them the broad depth of frequencies and emotions that we have, because like us, they're in a state of evolution. We're trying to raise our vibration. They're trying to broaden their vibration. They will never go to a lower vibration. You never have to worry about the angels becoming like demonic. Well, it does happen once in a while, but that's a whole different thing. That doesn't happen often or lightly. But they love sharing their information with us. And again, to get into the angelic library requires a very, very high vibration. The best way to do that is to spend 3 days doing a great deal of meditation on raising your vibration, eat a diet that raises your vibration, drink only water, and like a vegan diet for 3 days. sparing food so your system is not heavy, great deal of meditation. Go into the library and ask and connect with your guardian angel as much as you can and your guides as much as you can. Go into the library, ask your librarian to give you a loaner book from the angelic realm. Ask your librarian if there's, after reading that, are you able to see into the angelic realm? Are you, how much can you connect in? And each time you do this, it gets to the point where you do not need to spend any time fasting or preparing. You know how to jump to that vibration and you can just get there. Does that make sense? So that is a great, great thing to do if you want to raise up your vibration and feel more light and loving in your daily life. Okay. So, right. Okay, they want me to tell you when I'm between lives, my job is not just like balls of energy floating around. We all work. My job is I work as a gatekeeper for the Akashic Records, and I prevent lower vibrational entities from coming in. These days, I'm working with the human and the Earth Akashic Records, all beings on the Earth, and some of you have heard about the reptilian people and those that are existing in the current day that are very low vibration and demonic. For a very long time now, I've been battling them and kicking them back into the demonic realm and denying them access to our Akashic realm. In this life, part of what I'm doing is learning how to heal those who are demonic and dark, to reclaim their light, to reclaim their spark of light and rise up and reconnect with their original soul family. Everyone and everything was originally created in the vibration of love and light. But because we all have free will, some have explored and fallen into the more dark. We used to think that it was important to just destroy them, kill them, banish them to hell. Now we're understanding that since they were once born from light and they've just devolved to darkness, they still have in them a spark of light. If we can heal them, they can return to light. And that's now in the gates of the Akashic Library. That's what we're trying to do in this life. That's my major life challenge, to learn to do this. So I do a lot of work with like people who do exorcisms, where instead of just banishing the demon, who's then free to go and attack someone else, so that doesn't do anyone any good, healing the demon and returning them to their original light state and their soul family to receive full healing, which can take, like millions and billions of years, but they're eternal, so that doesn't matter. That's right, Pippa. That's right. So the librarians are going to come through. Normally, when I channel the Galactic Collective. There's a couple of ancient divine shamanist goddesses, White Shell Woman and White Buffalo Woman, who I often channel, and Gaia, the Divine Mother of all. The librarians have been so anxious for me to channel them. Oh my God, they're so excited about this. I'm going to be honest. There's kind of like a bunch of absent-minded professors who have been working in a think tank for a very long time, and sometimes they think that they're being very clear and articulate, but their answers are a little hard to grasp. They love answering questions. Feel welcome to ask any question, be it personal or global or universal, whatever. They love answering questions. The librarians and the guardians. The guardians sort of take care of the library as a whole, and the librarians are the ones who take care of the books connecting the information with people. Um, Sometimes, if you ask a question, there may be a long pause because there may be one being answering, but all of them are here, or they may be answering as a collective, or they may be going to get someone to answer the question. So don't mind if I seem kind of spaced out for a period of time. Um, Sometimes they make funny noises because they're checking in on everyone's vibrations. So I may sound a little peculiar sometimes. And again, if they say something and you don't understand, feel welcome to speak up because then they turn to me and they say, "You understand?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, I've been working with you a long time." So they're still learning to be a little articulate on um, on our common human level, and but they're so anxious. They're so anxious to share everything that you know they're really delighted. They may end up at some point getting like Gaia to come through just to explain something if they can't. So you'll notice the change. If you are ever wondering who's coming through, feel welcome to ask who just expressed that to us, and because they're not going to offer it to them, they're all one, so they don't think about any of that. Uh, okay, right. Does anyone need like a bathroom break or anything before we start? Yes. Well, they're going to talk, but you all, yes, please ask questions. Yes, yes. Channeling is not like this divine sacred thing that should be like worshiped from afar. It's a connection. It's a connection from those who have information and want to share it to those who want the information. So, yes, please ask questions and please let them know when you want more clarification or more information. Otherwise, they'll talk about what's relevant to them at the moment and what they think you want to hear. They may, again, if no one's asking questions, you may feel like some extra tingling as they're going and grabbing your loud thoughts. Um, or they may pull me back in to talk for a little bit and then push me back out. So if I suddenly seem more bright eyed and I'm referring to them in the third person, that's because they pulled me back out. But yeah, feel welcome to ask. Please ask questions. Please. They love that so much. Um, okay, so why don't we take like